All right, well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I am going to share my screen. And then I'm just going to jump in and can you see my screen?
Well, it's thinking about it. There we go.
Finally?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into my video here that I'm doing, and then we'll talk about it after. And let me know if we can't hear it.
So this is your motor plate that goes in your carriage, also referred as QuiltMotion. That's the branding name of the hardware, is QuiltMotion. A lot of people call it motor plate. Also the black thing that sits in your carriage. It has when you get it new, it has the belts already threaded. If you need to rethread your belt, make sure you go down on this side of the gear, and then you'll hit the gear on the back and come up back through. Same with this side, but underneath. I want to show you some of the components in the motor plate. So this is where our electronic boards to go in to communicate to our tablet and to our sewing machine. It has a cover, and if you push in a little bit and go up, and then you can slide the cover right out. There's some pieces on the cover that are very important, and these little tabs help keep your USB cable plugged in. If a tab is broken, you might want to get it replaced, because the USB cable can vibrate and then come out. So the tabs on this are important. We have a USB board and we have a sewing board. The USB board communicates to your tablet. The sewing board communicates to your sewing machine. They both do separate things. So if you're having a USB problem, you follow your cable from here to your tablet. To get the board out, you just put your hand underneath and slide it right out. And that's how you get either board out. All of our Unique sewing machines have this board. And then our Rebel sewing machine uses this board. Other sewing machines will use another type of board to communicate with that sewing machine. And then once you have the board back in, then you just slide the cover right there. There is a firmware button right here that when you update your software, sometimes you might need to do a firmware update. If you're going from version 5 to version 6, you will have a firmware update. So you'll want to push this button as the software walks you through that. This is not a reset button. I see people calling it a reset button. If people have problems with their motor plate, they tell them to reset this. This is only for the firmware. Does nothing for you for resetting it when it doesn't need a firmware button. This is our sewing board cable that plugs in to this port. Looks like a telephone wire, and then the other end plugs into our sewing machine, the QuiltMotion sewing machine, in the blue port. This goes in. If you're having problems with it moving and not stitching, this is a cord you might want to unplug and plug back in to make sure it's snapped in nicely. If you ever get the message that your needle is not up, but it is up, then there's a communication problem with this cable. I have seen with cable management that people plug it in and they pull it super tight like this along your carriage, where you're actually pulling some pins on this cable, and pulling those pins will cause that error. To fix this error, sometimes it's really easy just to unplug it, and a lot of times you can just switch ends, plug it back in, and then when you do your cable management, just keep it loose. Don't pull it tight so your pins won't do it. So if you're having problems with it, keep telling you your needle is not up, and it is. Check out this cable. A pin could have come out, and maybe you might need to replace this cable. But next time you put it on, make sure it is not super tight. a firmware update on the motor plates. I just went from version 5 to version 6, so the software is going to ask me to do a firmware update. I'm going to go ahead and open the program. Now it's saying there is an update. Would you like to do this update? I'm going to tap on yes. And it says, please turn your sewing machine off. So I'm going to power off my sewing machine, not the QuiltMotion, not on the surge protector, just the sewing machine itself. Then I'm going to tap OK. And now it wants me to touch the button. So I can reach with this frame, I can reach to the button. It's right here with our cables that I had talked about earlier, our sewing cable and our USB cable. And earlier I showed you how to take the boards out. When it's on your frame, you just unplug these two cables, put your hand underneath to take the cover off, and then take the boards out. So the button is right here, so I'm going to just push the button a couple times. Then you have 20 seconds to go back to your tablet and hit OK. And now it's performing the update. It's really important when it's writing to that motor plate that there is not a USB disconnection. When it's writing to the plate and there's a USB connection, the programming is lost on the motor plates. So not to scare you anything, but to scare you is just don't touch anything while this is running. So now it's telling me to power cycle the carriage. I'm going to go ahead and tap OK. And then it's going to ask me if I have yet. I'm just going to hit yes and OK. And then the program will shut down. And then I'm going to turn the power cable off. Give it a few seconds. Now, if you've done a firmware update and you see any weirdness, leave this off for a full minute. Turn it back on. And now I can open the program and be back and good to go. Make sure you turn your sewing machine back on though. Today we're going to talk about static electricity. Batting is one of your worst nemesis of static electricity. It can get you. Electronics are very sensitive to the static electricity. It is an engineer nightmare. Here at the Grace Company, we try very hard to protect all of our electronic boards from static electricity. I'm going to show you what it does to the automation static electricity. Come upon your machine and you've got a charge, a static electricity charge, and touch your machine, you can stop everything. And on the screen, we don't have now we have a message to say that the power is out. So you want to make sure when you come upon your machine and you're static that you touch something, not just your frame. You need to touch something metal so you won't shock your system. To recover from here, I'm going to unplug my USB cable, and then I'm going to plug it back in, and then I'm going to give Windows enough time to load the drivers again, and then I'm going to tap retry, and my sew button is now up. You just want to make sure when you have a USB disconnect that you don't move your machine, that your machine stays in the same place, because then it will stay where it's supposed to be, and then you should just be able to hit sew and continue on. But just make sure that you touch something before you get to your frame.
All righty. All right. So, everybody can hear me okay? Hope so.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so to recap on this, for the motor plates, we have the USB slider board, and then this is our glossary, and then we have the USB cable, the sewing board cable, and your belts for both access. If you're ever stitching and it doesn't look the same that's on screen, check your belts. Everybody forgets to check the belt under the sewing machine, so check that belt. And then there's the firmware button. Sometimes after a software update, QuiltMotion needs to do a firmware button. Do not avoid and say no to this. You could see some weirdness with the movement and the stitching if you don't do the firmware update. And then I want to talk about shutting down. So shut down every night, shut down, shut your program down, shut your QuiltMotion. Save your work when you're working at Panto, save your work. And then get your marks for your next zone, and then you can shut down for the night. But it is important, especially people that are in areas with a lot of lightning storms. It'll be really good. Something else I didn't mention in the video, if your QuiltMotion for some reason is moving extremely slow than you're used to, there's two things that can cause that. One, it's been left on too long. And two, it got shocked by static electricity. So it still moves and it still sews nicely, but it goes really slow. So if you experience that really slowness, yeah, make sure. And then you have to turn it off for at least a minute when you experience that. And anytime you experience anything weird with the automation, turn it off and let it sit for at least a minute. Because turn it off, turn it right back on sometimes doesn't cure that. So with static electricity, just like I said earlier, just make sure you touch something before you get to that. Load your quilt with all the power off, your QuiltMotion and your sewing machine because of that batting. Use a humidifier, use static guard. And when you're approaching the frame, make sure you touch the surface. We've had a lot of static in our room this year, and yes, we need a humidifier in our room, but we've had a lot of a crazy, and I forget every time I sit at my desk and I walk across the room to touch my frame and I shock it. And in the video, I touched my sewing machine, but it does the same thing when you touch your tablet. Even if you're hitting the finish button on your tablet, it could do the same thing. And sometimes when it gets hit with the static electricity, in the video I showed unplugging the cable and plug it back in. There's been times where I've had to power off the automation and then get it back on, and then it's fine. So just be aware of that. When I was looking into static electricity, there was a little article about the moisture on your skin. Dry skin can cause this too. So, you know, it will cause that static buildup. So go ahead and use that. So I have another video I want you to watch. It's from the tech team, and it's USB troubleshooting if you're having problems with the USB.
If you are receiving an unable to connect error on your Quilter's Creative Touch software, here is how to fix it. You'll notice this error that says we're unable to connect to the automated quilting system. It does say try to connect by power cycling the carriage, click cancel, and then restart the program. Or you can click OK by running in simulation mode. Simulation mode means that you are not connected to the system. You're still able to use the software, but you won't be able to quilt. In simulation mode, you'll notice this red not connected. That means that you're running in simulation mode and that the machine is not connected to the QuiltMotion system. The most common issue for an unable to connect error is cabling. If your cabling is not connected to the QuiltMotion system, then you will not be able to connect to the software. There are two cables to the QuiltMotion system. First is the USB-B cable. It's the angled cable, and it will go into this first board. This one is a little difficult to get in, so you just want to make sure that it goes in and clicks. You may also hear that dinging sound. That means that you're connected. The second cable is our sewing cable, and it looks like a telephone cable. It will go into this second board right here. You do want to make sure that one clicks. If you're receiving an unable to connect error with the cables plugged in, let's go as far as removing and replacing the cables. You'll want to make sure that you hear them click. Once these cables are installed, you want to check that the other side of the cables are plugged in correctly. The USB-B cable will follow this up, and this will go into your tablet. I want to make sure that the USB-B cable is plugged into your tablet. The second cable is a sewing cable. This will go directly from your QuiltMotion all the way up to your machine. You want to make sure that this is plugged into the correct spot, and you can go as far as removing and replacing it until you hear it click. Once your cabling is good to go, we want to make sure that the machine is turned on and that the QuiltMotion is turned on. The machine will be on with the eye. The O is off, the I is on. With the power strip in the back, it will have a light indicator. However, if the light indicator is off, there is an on and off option here too. So you can see that it is on. Once we check the cabling, we can open our software and see if we continue to receive an error. Click No to run out of simulation mode. If you get this message and your cabling is good, this may be due to a Windows Update error. We use Windows drivers to facilitate communication between the software and your sewing machine, so if those drivers are not updated through Windows updates, then it will essentially cut that connection. To get to your Windows updates, exit out of your software and make sure that your tablet is connected to the internet. To run Windows updates, tap on the Home button, then the gear settings, then on the left-hand side, click Windows Update. You will notice that there is an update, so we do want to download and install. You can turn this on if you'd like, and then go ahead and run all updates that are available. This may take several attempts as Windows updates like to build on each other, and some won't be available until the previous updates are ran, and you may have to restart your tablet several times. Keep checking for Windows updates until your tablet says that you are up to date. Once your tablet says you're up to date, exit your settings and reopen your software. Once you see this message pop up, that generally means that you are connected. You'll want to make sure that your sewing machine needle is up, and you want to move your carriage to the center of your sewing area. That means back to front and side to side. Then press OK. Once you hit OK, you'll notice a sound coming from your motor plate. The motor plate is checking the gears, and then you will notice the machine moving a little bit forward and to the left. This means it's checking the belts.
Beautiful sound.
Your software then will open completely, and you'll notice the green connected button. That means you are connected. If you have any other questions or issues, please contact Grace Company Tech Support.
So yeah, I couldn't stress enough about how Windows updates affect the USB. So just make sure you keep your tablet online. In the software, while I was doing this, I decided to add some stuff in the videos. With the software open, if you go to Help, and across the top we have tutorials and help and videos. In the videos, I added the tech support playlist, so you can see what they have done. And then I've also added Quilter's Creative Touch, any videos that had been done. If you go there, you'll see a lot of Carla's that she did with Tuesday with Grace videos that you can watch. Also, the troubleshooting one we just watched, I added that individually in here. There's also a firmware update in here. This one in here, it states it's for QCT 4, but the process is the same. And there's also a great video on an unexpected shutdown to help you get back on track after some power went out and it shut down. So that's it with the QuiltMotion. I am going to go through, we go through what each level has in the software. We have our edge-to-edge version, and our edge-to-edge version It does quilting off your quilt top and back on. And that's all it does is edge to edge quilting. And then we have our plus version, which we have our pantograph. Our pantograph is limited to 2 rows, but you repeat those 2 rows over and over when you're sewing the pantograph. And then we also have the select and sew where you can place individual blocks on your quilt top for this. This is exactly like the pro version select and sew is. And then in the pro version, we have the select and sew, the pantograph, the pattern CAD where you can design and edit patterns, the quilt CAD where you can lay out your quilt and record. And then when we go to gold, I do want to say that a lot of people think when we go up to gold that you have to be a professional quilter to go to gold. How it really works is as you go to gold, things get easier. So if you struggle in a lower version, the higher version is going to make things easier for you, such as borders and corners. And our gold feature, with gold, we still have the select and sew, the pantograph, the pattern CAD, the quilt CAD, and the record, but also we have advanced panto. Advanced panto lets you choose a different design for each rows. And then we have borders and corners. I love me some borders and corners. I love this feature. It's fun. I will put a border 2 or 3 or 4 on a quilt just so I can use borders and corners. It's awesome. Then we have a corner maker to help design corner patterns, font stitcher to stitch out your fonts if you want to put something on your quilt. I was asked why would I use font stitcher. I like to put the year I did the quilt, and I always use the font stitcher to put the year, and I hide it within my quilt. I'll find an area that might just need a little more stitching, and then I'll put the year in there. Then we have our gold patterns. You can download. We have gold patterns every month that you can download and have more patterns in the program. We have multi-pattern placement where you can place multiple blocks at one time and sew them all at once. Fabric comp, love fabric comp. Can't say enough about fabric comp. If you're doing borders and corners, you will want to use fabric comp also. And then we have our patterner clips that will let you keep in or keep out an area on your quilt. And then virtual long arm. A lot of people don't know about virtual long arm, but it will allow you to do a pattern that's larger than your throat. So it's a lot of fun also. So a lot of awesome features in gold, and a lot of awesome features in the software itself.
What is fabric compensation?
Fabric comp will allow, if you have, say you have a sashing that you want to put something in and you have a long seam line, fabric comp will allow you to, the pattern will go in or out depending on your seam. So that will help with, and in borders and corners. If you don't have the quilt on straight, you don't need to worry about the quilt being on straight because you can adjust with what your seams are on your quilt.
Marie, can you jump in and show, I know you pointed to it, but kind of get into a little bit more detail. What's the difference between a pantograph in Plus and the pantographs in E to E?
Okay. So in E to E, you're only going to be doing 1 row at a time, and you're going to be sewing from the left to the right all the way down your quilt. You sew a row, the program helps you mark your pattern, let me turn this off. And one thing great about E to E is we have these embedded videos that are really cool to see. So yeah, then I need to choose what frame I'm using. Hang on, I got my Then you choose what frame, you set your safe area. And then you would choose your pattern And then you would give it a pattern height. This is the only thinking of edge to edge, is just given a pattern height, which is, hang on, my Zoom thing keeps getting in my way, which is really awesome. And then next, and then you can get spacing, whatever spacing you need. This particular pattern to me wouldn't need spacing, but you can add spacing and get the pattern to be closer together as you need. And then you choose where you're at on your quilt. Say I'm at the top of my quilt and I'm going to set my edges. These are my quilt top edges. This is new technology that we have going in QCT. The other levels don't have this quilt top edges, but it's pretty awesome. If you want to do a quick, if you have pro or even gold and or even beginnings, you can go down to this level to use this level. And then it has placed my pattern for me. Then I'm going to hit next, and now it will sew it out. The pink is my quilt top edges. So that's where they are, and that's where the program does it. And then it helps you mark as you go. Let me go back out and go. Sorry if I'm going too fast. Tell me to slow down.
No, but I am going to interrupt you, Marie. Before you move on, will you again show how to get to this level if they have a different level of software?
Okay, so yeah, in the bottom right, you'll have
Mhm.
try other product here. And then it brings up all the different levels, and then you just tap on start underneath whichever level you want to get to. And it will take you to that level. Anything else with edge to edge before I go on?
No,
No?
go to plus. It's not beginnings. Remember that.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. It used to be.
I know it
Well,
did.
it was.
Throws us for a
Yeah.
loop, you guys.
Yeah, at times, yeah. So in the plus mode, pantograph, it looks a lot like basic mode in Pro, but you can only set up 2 rows at a time. So I could select my pattern, and then I can add my 2 rows, and then I can add my patterns to the look that I want. This does not have an aspect ratio lock. So it is up to you to get the look you want. I mean, because I could go add a lot more patterns. It does have a lot of control though. But like I said, you can only set up the 2 rows, and I can still alter and stagger if I want. I can rotate and flip. Yeah, did that answer the question on the differences?
Yeah, it was a good job.
Great.
With all of them, you guys, your throat on your machine determines the height of the designs. So you need to remember that, okay? Because it's really important as you're setting up your quilts to not oversize your design to work within the parameters of the space.
Right.
Okay, so of course, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get is how do you find documentation and help files, and is there a manual for this, or where do people go if they have questions?
Show them the back door to the help files, Marie.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. We have help up here, and this is where I was at videos, and then there's help here, and then there's tutorials in here. You do have to be online, like Carla said earlier, or these won't show up. You can click on them and it'll say nothing's here. So, and these are where they are. And then also on the home page, if you click on user manual, a Windows Explorer window will come up with all of the files. And when you do the install, these are the files that come off of your thumb drive and then go into this folder. Now, this one is the help one. So if I wanted to look at the tutorials, I would need to go back one and then find the tutorial folder. And then here's my files for the tutorials for that. So there's several different places. You got YouTube, you have within your software. So yeah, you have Carla. So
And tech
I
support,
send
don't forget,
out
you can
help
always call
files
tech.
all the time.
yep. And yes, tech support. If you need help, you can call them also. So yeah.
So here's another question, Marie. Do you also have to be connected to the machine in addition to being online to get those help files?
Mm-mm.
No, I'm not connected to a machine right now, but you do have to be online. So, because we can add files. Like I could go add another file right now, and then the next time you open the software, you'll see the new one in here. So you do need to be online. It is important because these are online. But you do not need to be connected to your machine. Take your tablet off, go sit in a nice comfy chair and play with the software in simulation mode. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm in simulation mode and I can do everything except sew when you're in simulation mode. Now, if you change your software to a higher level than you have, the software will say demo mode. When you're in demo mode, you can still go through everything, but you can't save. You can't sew with it or you can't save anything. So, and that's what happens when you're in demo mode.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you very much, Marie. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, let me stop sharing. And I can breathe.
That's
You did a
good
great
because now
job.
we're going to put Carla in the hot seat. So if you've been here before, you know Carla loves to give out homework. So Carla, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay, you guys, here's your homework assignment. I kind of would like to know, okay, so I'm asking you some questions. Do you have the automation? Yes or no? Do you want the automation? Yes or no? Do you want to learn more free motion? I just want to know what you guys need from us because we're here to help and we want to help you all move forward and we want to move forward as well. So what skills would you like to learn? Would you like to learn more about, so next time we're going to introduce you to borders and corners and we're going to do it several different ways. I don't know if you guys knew that there are several, that there's free motion borders and corners, which I get to introduce, and you can do it a couple different ways with the automation. So we'd like to know. And then to the right, I gave you a couple of practice pages because we are going to start learning how to be more precise and accurate in our spacing and our quilting. That goes across with the automation from free motion. We're just going to be better overall people. So add our skills. And so this is just a practice sheet. I really like for you to print them off and just kind of practice your designs. I put a couple in there with this one, this up down loop. Man, it's a hard one, you guys. But it will really help you develop keeping your loops nice and precise and even sized. That's the kicker, even sized. And so we don't have the automation, so we're going to do these in free motions, but I just wanted you to practice so that when we talk about borders and corners, we're going to jump in and be more perfecting our skills. So please practice, 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 and come with a great attitude next time, like you always do. And we're here to help you move forward, and you're here to push us to help you move forward. So anyway, that's their assignment.
Every month we put in new patterns and you just have to go in and just download the newest month. And we've got some really good patterns going into our gold patterns. So make sure that if you have the gold, the QCT gold, that you're downloading all your patterns and taking full advantage of that gold card. So
And just a shameless plug here, if you're thinking about upgrading to gold, private message Jana Matthews if you're still on chat tonight, or call our sales team in the morning. Would love to help you with that. Or your dealer, your local dealer can help too. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all the regular things just to help us grow. Thank you for your support and have a wonderful evening.
You guys, thanks so much. We couldn't do it without you. And share it with everybody. Tell everybody to come and join.